So I just got back from my trip to Guyana, and of course, it's always great to be able to go down to the motherland and just get out of the city and spend time with my family. But I was quite shocked and surprised when I got back and saw the price of gas. Of course, everybody knows we're at war right now. We are striking Iran, doing what they're doing. But I didn't expect the war that's going on over 6,000 miles away to be affecting me so quick and so fast, 60 feet away at my local gas station. So this week, I'm going to be getting caught up on everything that's been going on the last 2-3 weeks since we've been away and really try to figure out what is this going to look like if it really isn't the short-term pain, long-term gain that they keep telling us. So let's get into it. 3, 2, 1, we gone. Welcome back, family, to another episode of the First Sip Podcast. I'm your host, Dikembe Smith, and this week, as I sip on my nice electrolyte beverage, now this doesn't got a name yet. This is something I made at home, so I know you're sitting there like, Dikembe, electrolyte beverage? Yes, we are trying to stay hydrated, so I put together some coconut water, some regular water, a dash of sea salt, dash of brown sugar, and what else I put in there? A little bit of lemon juice. And that's about it. And just shook it up, mix that up, get the electrolytes going, some potassium, some sodium back into the body. I just did a workout right before I sat down to record this, and it's about 7 o'clock. So I don't plan on drinking coffee at this time. So if y'all want to go ahead and try something like this, let me know how it comes out for you. Or if you have other recommendations for like at home electrolyte drinks, let me know, because I'm trying to focus on hydration this year. But we're not here to talk about hydration. We are here to talk about the craziness that's been going on at the gas pump. Because, as I said, when I got back and I went down to the gas station down the road to go and fill up my tank, I had to do a double take because I was like, wait, what? The math isn't mathing, because I'm pretty sure just a couple of weeks ago when I was at the pump here, gas, and I do premium, right? So when I was at the pump, I'm saying, okay, gas before I left was right around like $3.39, $3.40, right in that area. And I'm sitting there scratching my head saying, why is it now $4.20 a gallon, $4.29 a gallon? And I'm trying to understand, how is this happening so quickly and so fast? So once again, unless your head's been in the sand, you know that we're at war, and this has had an immediate impact on the global oil supply, global gas supply, right? And when I'm sitting there trying to figure out, well, like, what's really going on? I didn't expect this to happen. Like we just struck them, but now the prices are up 60 cents at the stations now. What's going on? So of course we do a little research, right? We read a little bit of news, and we see that they shut down the Strait of Hormuz. Now, for those of you who don't know, this is a waterway that's over there right off of Iran, and this is a passageway that affects pretty much 20% of the global oil supply. Now, when you're looking at that, you're saying, okay, well, 20% of the oil, that doesn't sound so crazy. What about the other 80%? 20%, take away 20% from your bank account, 20% of the people you work with, 20% of the size of your home or your room, it starts to sink in then, right? It's like, okay, 20% is a good chunk. And to take the numbers a step further, they said that strait, we used to put out between 18 to 20 million barrels a day, right? They used to transport about 18 to 20 million barrels of oil a day. And now it's cut down to about 500,000 that's being transported on the same waterway. Now, why is this happening, Dikembe? Well, there was a couple things that happened over the past couple of weeks as tensions continues to rise, right? Now, of course, after Iran was struck initially, they said, all right, well, what are we going to do to push back? Not only did they, send out their own missiles and, drop their own bombs in other countries that were closer to them and within their range, but they also started dropping bombs on some of these other ports that people would have, would have redirected the oil to. So countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, right? They have other ports out there that they could have redirected the oil to, and they are still redirecting some. But from what I've seen, some of these ports have also been getting bombed, right? So it's not as effective as they thought it would have been, and it is definitely affecting the oil supply over there when you look at the countries in the Eastern Hemisphere. Because when I was looking at how much of that oil, comes to these parts of the country, it was pretty interesting to see, because when you're looking at how much of the oil that passes through that strait, most of it goes towards places like India, China, South Korea. And when I'm looking at this, I'm saying, okay, well, we're not going to be that affected, but Are they really going to be able to do what they need to do? Is this maybe like a tactical move, on that side where it's not only about, what's going on in the Middle East, but are they also trying to affect things that are going on in China? And this is where I was scratching my head and saying, well, what happens if, like I said, if they can get their oil supply, what happens to them long term? But it looks like they are still letting some of those boats through, because I don't think Iran also wants to go to war with China, right? With those big players. So that's something that you still see being able to go through. But it's interesting because the Strait is still open for some people, right? Some countries are able to pass through, like I say, like China. It seems like some boats might be able to get through for certain Indian for certain Indian vessels, but a lot of insurance carriers have also pulled coverage, or the coverage prices are just absolutely ridiculous, to the point where companies are just pulling out and saying it's not worth our best interest to go through there at this time, right? It's not worth the risk, so why would we do it? And that's something that I was sitting there looking at. It's like, okay, well, if it does open back up, what happens to the long-term supply, the long-term movement, if those countries continues to say like, well, you know what, there's still the risk of us hitting a mine or us being bombed, like what happened recently. I think there was a boat from, where was it? I think it was from a tanker from Bangladesh or somewhere that had gotten struck, and everybody on the boat had to evacuate. The tanker ended up sinking. But these are like real world things that are going on over there. Now, of course, this is a whole lot of, geopolitical stuff, and it's not like stuff that we usually talk about, but I'm bringing it up because what we do usually talk about is how, everyday finances, the prices that we're seeing affect us as everyday people, everyday Americans. And as I'm coming back saying, okay, well, if gas prices just went up 60 cents, in a 2-week span, how high can it go? Right. And a lot of this comes from, once again, the price of a barrel of oil, which around this time last week had hit about, I believe, $118, $116 for a barrel of oil. And then it just quickly dropped back down to about $94 for a barrel of oil. And that's a whole different conversation when you talk about the people who really profit and make money off of times like this, when they know, okay, what plays do I need to make? What investments do I need to go ahead and put my money behind, because we see something that other people don't see coming, or we have insider information that'll allow us to make a couple million overnight over this week. And that is literally what happens, right, in these situations. For anybody who's familiar with things like, like buying like oil futures, those contracts, and, that type of like trading, this is where you see people say like, okay, I'm willing to bet that the price of oil is going to hit $100, $110, even if it's currently at $80 right now. And some people might scratch their head and say, well, what makes you think it's going to go up that high, within this time frame? But they have information, or they're seeing news that they use to go ahead and make these plays, to make these investments. And then once everybody else sees this, that quick rush to buy these things up, everybody else then gets in. And then once that thing goes up, the people who were there first go ahead and pull back out. And this is where you hear people getting stuck with, okay, like, now we're stuck holding the bag. What do we do? Why didn't we make the same money as those other people? This is why, like I say, when you look at this world of like investments and money play that go on to like these bigger political things, it is a world that like I'm still trying to get some sort of understanding of, but it is level after level after level. And it just makes me sometimes sit there and wonder, it's like, man, does the average person really have that much control over what happens with these prices and the things in their local life? Because like I said, if this war is going on over 6,000 miles away, but we're already feeling the pressure here 60 feet away, right down the road, then what should we expect? What can we really plan for? And that's sometimes where I have to say, like, okay, let's get realistic, right? What can we plan for? Well, I know for me personally that I have to be real strategic and say, okay, how much am I going to be driving throughout the week? And if it's not necessary to go to certain places, I'm driving around all over the city every single day, showing people apartments, showing people homes, and, what are some things they can do? Oh, let's try to group some things into, a certain area. So I'm not going from one corner of the city to the next corner of the city. But that's where I start scratching my head and say, okay, well, what about the trickle down effects? What's going to happen when those increase in gas prices start affecting these companies and they start increasing their prices because they still have expenses to pay out, right? And I don't think they're going to want to lose their profit margin. And it's not, think about transportation costs for groceries, right? Food that has to get to the supermarket right down the road from you. They're going to be seeing an increase in diesel prices. So where is that extra money going to be coming from? I believe personally that it's going to trickle down eventually to the consumer, because that's probably the easiest place for them to get it. But also on the backside, we do see some senators putting up some options as far as, okay, well, let's put some sort of block on, the tax. Let's put a block on any more increases, or make sure there's no price gouging, anything like that that's going on because of what's going on right now with the war, right? How can we protect the people in our local communities so they're not, like I said, dealing with a crazy increase within less than 30 days? Because like I was talking to my friends the other day, I've been seeing, gas prices were actually going down in a positive direction, but that took about a year for it to start having some sort of break. And I know Trump talks a lot about, cutting gas prices down. We're going to be back to $2 a gallon, but this ain't the direction that we want to be headed in, right? So with all that, it is good to see that the senators are saying, okay, let's try to figure out a way to put some sort of stop on these price increases, at least for a temporary time, even if it's 60 days, 90 days. Any sort of relief is relief. And that is what the average person needs right now. Another thing I was looking at too, when I was doing a little research on this, is how much we're also getting taxed here in Pennsylvania. We have one of the highest state taxes when it comes to gas and diesel. And if you're from here, you probably know that. You probably, if you're like me, remember, driving on road trips with your parents and they would stop in Jersey or another state to fill up the tank and avoid filling up in PA at all times. Right. I remember growing up, my dad would always stop in Jersey right before we got back into Pennsylvania and say, okay, well, nope, we're going to fill up here because the gas prices here are so much cheaper than they are in PA. And at first, it didn't really make sense to me because I'm like, Dad, this might only be 60 cents, 70 cents, of a difference between here and Jersey. Is it really that much? Yes. As somebody who now puts in their own gas and understands it, yes, those numbers add up very quickly. And this is the stuff when we're talking about the everyday American, the person who has to sit there and really look at how much they're spending at the gas pump, at the grocery store, for transportation, different things. All of these things start adding up, and they add up fast, even with small changes like 40 to 50 cents, because all of these things compound over and over and over. And once again, if you're not prepared for this type of quick shift, what do? You're back to the point of scrambling. You're tapping into the emergency fund and you're trying to say, well, there goes that. We were just starting to get some sort of progress, and it seems like we're now back to square one. And this is the part where I have to sit there and sometimes wonder, what is the long-term plan? Because if they keep talking about this and saying, okay, well, we're going to experience this short-term pain for the long-term gain, what is the long-term gain here for the average American? Because it seems like the goalpost is being moved every time we have the conversation. Every 6 to 8 months, it is a different topic, it is a different threat, and we are trying to figure out, as regular people, what is going on? I didn't vote for him, but I know some people who did, and they're sitting there right now asking the same questions I'm asking, and I'm just sitting back looking like, I don't know what to tell you. You tell me what's going on. And right now we're both sitting there in the same boat now, scratching our heads, being like, well, I guess we just got to keep paddling along until we get through this one. And hopefully we get through this one quickly, because this is not something that most of us want to continue to deal with, even though some people might think this is the best thing to be doing right now. Hey, more power to you. But I'm trying to be a part of the crew that wants to see lower prices across the board for the things that we spend our money on every week and every month, so that we can all live better lives. So until we get to that point, let's just keep being strategic with how we are spending our money. Like I said before, if you can cut down on trips that you don't have to take, if you can maybe carpool with somebody else, you guys can split the money on gas. It's always a great option. Anytime me and my friends got somewhere to go, it's a long trip, we're always about, hey, let's hop in together. Let's not all, drive to the same place if we don't have to. Doesn't make any sense, right? Let's get back to the basics and not get caught up in the doom and gloom of everything that's going on, with the world. Because honestly, some of these things, like I said before, we can't really affect it. So I know this episode was a little bit different than our usual conversations about the economy and what's going on, with business, but we'll get back to that. But like I said, I just wanted to take some time talk about what I've been reading about, what's been going on with the world, and want to see what you guys are thinking about this situation right now. Like I said, I love to talk about geopolitics. So if any of you want to talk about the stuff that's going on, overseas or even locally here in America, let me know, right? Shoot me a message, shoot me a DM if you see a clip or something, or if you're listening to this, shoot me a text message and let me know your thoughts, right? Because this is affecting all of us. I was talking to a couple friends the other day about what their thoughts are, and it is like I said, sometimes it's funny to have these conversations and just get a good laugh about what we're going through. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you think about this episode. Well, until next time, stay tuned, stay curious, and as always, enjoy your first sip.